However, through all the applications, nominations, emails, calls, discussions that we had, one man stock rose appreciably while we discussed who we wanted. And we feel like the best qualified person to lead our football program at this time. And it gives me so much joy to present Coach Clowney as our 19th head football coach. So welcome him with me, if you would.
What an honor. I talked to our coaches this morning, and a lot of people talk to me about whether or not this was my dream job. And the thing I expressed to them this morning was that this is so far beyond my dream job that I can't even imagine. Just what's happened here in the past, the way we work to serve Christ and to do things the right way, through this little silly game of football. I'm just so appreciative of this opportunity. I wrote down a couple things. I really want to thank everyone for coming. It's a packed house, and that's exciting. I want to thank all you guys for coming. All of our, any of our players that are here, faculty, staff, the media. We want to thank all of you guys again for your presence here today. And I want to thank Dr. Fowler and Matt Pope and the search committee. The only thing I ever wanted in this whole opportunity, in this whole situation, was an opportunity. And that's what they provided me, an opportunity to get in front of them and talk to them and just give me a chance to kind of express my thoughts and feelings about, what it takes to be successful here at Carson-Newman. In my mind, I knew going into the process, I thought the one thing I had in my favor was I didn't think there was anybody out there that loves Carson-Newman more than I do. And hopefully that's something that shows up, because this place is somewhere that's just meant the world to me. As a young man coming in here as a player and being able to really get face to face with Christ was just unbelievable with me. My mom, my family's here today. I want to thank my wife, Carrie, for putting up with me. And, we're not finished yet. There's some long days ahead. Let's just keep hanging in there and fighting together. Preston, I know he's excited. Probably one of the best things that happened to me the last couple of weeks, where we were out shooting airsoft guns, and we were going in, and he said, "Daddy," he said, "when will you know something about Carson-Newman?" I said, "Buddy, I don't know." And he said, "Dad, I hope you get the job." And I said, "Thanks, buddy," because that's my guy. I love you. My mom and my aunt, I just want to thank you for everything that you've done for me, growing up and just always being there. Sometimes I was the only kid at the games that had parents there, and I didn't appreciate it at the time, but I appreciate you guys always being there and supporting us. And I think that's the biggest thing. That's what kind of leads me into what I really want to talk about is family. We've all been on break over the holidays, and we've got a chance to spend time with our families. And sometimes that can be fun, sometimes it can be stressful, but I think family is something that's extremely important. And I look at family from two standpoints. I think it can be just a structure, to where 1 + 1 is 2. You got brother, sister, aunt. But I think more than anything, I think family is an emotion, and what that emotion is it's love. And that's the one thing that I can honestly say that I've experienced from my family growing up. And that's one thing that I experienced, from my family here, when I first got to Carson-Newman. We got some of the older coaches back there, Coach Whitley, Coach Mitchell, Coach Deaton, just coming in, and those guys being mentors to us and helping us grow and helping us learn and helping us grow in our faith. That's when I really became, part of this Carson family. And I thank you guys for what you did for all of us. Long time ago, and it's still paying off for a lot of us. I talk to guys all the time, so I want to say thank you. But family is something that's just extremely, extremely important. And last year, when you turn on the TV, March Madness with basketball, everyone had on the T-shirts, and they said family on the back. And we honestly, at points in time, we cut the cable off, so I saw the game sparingly. So when I look at those shirts, and the one thing that stuck out to me is when I looked at those T-shirts and they said family, the big thing that I wondered about, I was like, how many of those, teams that are wearing those shirts, because it's come cliche and everyone's got this shirt, how many teams are actually really doing the things that, we really should be doing when we say that we're family? And, is that love really there? Is that love present? And so when I look at us in the future of Carson-Newman football, that's the thing that sticks out to me more than anything, is we want to be family. I want to bring these guys in. We want these guys to come in. We want these guys, when they get back here, my biggest goal for these guys is for them to fall in love with one another and fall in love with this school and fall in love with the process that Christ has got laid out for them to help them grow and to being the young men that he's called them to be. And I just look forward to serving every single day here at Carson-Newman. And so once again, I thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Questions for Coach Clowney? Go ahead,
Coach, obviously the experience you have with Carson-Newman, the amount of time you've spent here, how do you think that's going to help you translate into next season and moving this program into where you want it to be?
I think I know this program very well, and when I say I know this program, I know the things that we do well, and I know a lot of the things that I don't think we did as well as we could. And so the biggest thing, I want to make sure that we continue to do the things that we've done well, and we want to expand and grow on some of the areas that we think that we really need to kind of improve on.
And at what point has it been really sink into you that this was your new position, that you are the head coach, the 19th head coach?
It sunk in when my wife looked at me one night and she said, and I had to get out of the bed because I was tossing and turning because my mind would not stop moving. And that was the moment that I knew, we're here and there's great responsibility behind what's happening, and we need to make sure that we're prepared and ready to go.
Have you had the opportunity to address the team yet as head coach, and if you have, kind of what was their reception?
We have not. Our guys are still on break, so I'm addressing them right now, and that's why part of my message is, to them, to make sure that they know when we come back, what we expect, that we're really going to work on growing together.
What's your offense going to look like?
Well, there you go. He always creates problems. I think scheme-wise, and I think, when we talk about family, I think that's what's going to win for us. However, I do know that the X's and O's are important, and we're going to do a good job with the X's and O's. We're going to make sure we got some good coaches here, and if we bring in guys, we're going to make sure they're vetted, and we make sure they're good X's and O's guys that believe in what we believe in. Offensively, I think there's a natural transition here. Unfortunately, the last Veer offensive coordinator in the world just retired, and so that's going to naturally going to bring some change. And so I believe in what we've done here over the last 30 years, but I do think there's going to be some things that's different. We want to be – I think you still got to be able to run the football to win championships, but I think you got to be able to throw the ball whenever you want to. And that's the place that we really want to make sure that we get to. So I like the option. We'll still keep option principles there, but we want to be able to spread the ball out and throw it a little bit more as well.
Throughout your time, was there ever a point that you thought you would be in this position, that this is a role you could fill?
That's a loaded question, because I was a high school head coach, and we come back here in 2009, and God brought us back here. There's no doubt about it. And I was great with being an assistant coach, and I become defensive coordinator. And my wife knows that. I was like, man, I'm excited about just having a room with a couple of guys, and we can have them over to the house and have dinner, and not have to worry about what the other 150 think about it. But and the Lord's really special. And the next year, Coach Deaton leaves, and I become the defensive coordinator. So we got a little bit bigger group. And during that process, man, the Lord really just started dealing with me that hey, this is not it. This is not what I called you to do. It's what I called you to do right now. But I felt like at that point in time, ultimately, it was going to lead to somewhere different. And we wrestled. Me and the Lord really wrestled on it, because one thing I felt when I was a head coach before was that really drug me down was I didn't have any offensive experience at all. And One thing I talked about was hiring an offensive coordinator, and I was not allowed to do that. And we struggled on offense. And so that was my big struggle with the Lord. It's like, man, if I'm going to do this, then I need some experience on offense. Year and a half later, I was on offense. and to be honest with you, I was irritated about it. Like, it wasn't something that I was excited about. But and then I just remember Coach Sparks' last day here cleaning out his office. He called me in and he said, we need to talk. And he started talking, and I said, Coach, I said, there's no need for us to talk. I said, I don't know what's going on. I'm just trying to be faithful. And I shared that story with him, and he sat back in his seat and he sighed, and he said, we'll continue praying for you. He said, I think whatever happens, the Lord's going to do a great job with you. And I cannot express, my love for Ken Sparks. I would not be sitting here in this seat today if it was not for Ken Sparks. And him just allowing me an opportunity. And I think the thing that he said to me today, that means more than anything he's ever done for me. He looked at me, he said, Mike, he said, I knew when I walked out of the building, I could trust that things were going to go well as long as they were in your hands. And so, like, we had that moment, and it's a moment that I'll never forget. I'll forever be indebted to him. Spiritually, he was the reason that I really got real with Christ. When he come to visit our house on our recruiting visit, you could just tell that there was a spirit there that was different. We come up on our recruiting visit. It may not have been legal, but he let my mom and my aunt stay at his house. And on that visit that day, I've shared this with the search committee. I hung out with some football players here, and I went from room to room to room, and everybody had this same book, and there was a guy running a race in track, and he was crossing the finish line. And I asked Johnny Smith, who was my host, I was like, what is that book? And he said, if you're interested in it, we'll talk about it later. And so on my recruiting visit, we stayed up till 2 o'clock in the morning, not partying, but talking about Christ. And, that was the difference in my life. And that next day I went over and I met with Coach Sparks. I said, can I get one of those books? And he said, well, I don't know recruiting-wise if I can give you one. He said, but I'll let Johnny have one, and if he decides to give it to you, then you can have it. So I got my first Bible on my recruiting visit here to Carson-Newman. And this has been a special place to me.
You coached under Ken Sparks. Is there maybe one piece of advice that he gave you in terms of coaching that you'd like to share?
I think the thing that sticks out is, Coach always asked one question to all of us. It was always, how's your heart? And how's your heart? And a lot of times, like, I was young and coaching, and I wanted to be about X's and O's, and I was ready to be defense coordinator. I was going to be the head coach at Tennessee, and, you have all these ambitions, but that's really not what it was about with Coach. It was about your heart, and it's about doing things honoring to the Lord and doing it for the right reason in the right way. One thing that he always talked about, is, we try to do our thing our way, and we grow a little bit, and then we try to do God's thing our way. And, it's not until we get to the point that we decide that we want to do God's thing God's way that we can really make a difference, and that's something that'll stick out to me forever.
Have you had a chance to talk to the coaches? What was kind of the reaction when you shared this new stuff?
Well, I talked to the coaches this morning. We had a staff meeting this morning at 8 because, it's really been a stressful, situation for all of us. But I will say, like, I appreciate the process. I know Matt talked about the process a little bit earlier, and I would have loved to have just been given this job, but I don't think that's the way it should happen. They gave me an opportunity to earn this job, and I think that's the thing that sticks out to me more than anything when they call me back and they say, Coach, this is not a gift, you earned this job. And so I'm so grateful for that and that process. But when I talked to the coaches this morning, I think and I hope, they're excited about it. I think, they all know, what I believe in and what I stand for. Our vision, our theme this morning was keeping the main thing, which is really stolen from Coach Sparks, who really stole it from Dal Shealy. And so, like, this thing's kind of been processed a long time. That's why I talked to him, too, about it was weird that my high school coach played for Dal Shealy in high school. And I get to Carson-Newman, and I'm like, man, this program just seems so familiar. And I figured out that Dow was here and Coach Parks played and coached with Dow. So, I mean, I've been groomed in this process in this place for a long time. But I think our coaches are excited about what's going on. I've challenged them this morning to make sure that we be about what we say we are. And that's one of the main things we want to make sure we get done.
With that being said, as the new head coach, you'll have 1 or 2 vacancies to fill, I would assume.
Yep. The first thing that we're going to do initially is we're going to make sure we find the right guy to run the offense. I'm not interested in calling plays per se. I'll call the ones that matter, and then I'll probably always call all the bad ones, you know, whatever. And we'll make sure, but we want to make sure that you know, we find the right, like I said earlier, the right X and O's guys to get us where we need to be. But that person also has to be the right person. And I think that's the biggest thing that's unique here at Carson-Newman is we can't just go hire anyone. And so we've got to make sure that that person is the right person, the right fit for us, and also knows the X and O's to be able to get done what we need to get done.
I think I already know the answer to this question, but what's going to kind of be the main overarching goal you're looking for?
The main what?
The main goal you're looking to accomplish as a coach during your time here.
The main goal, and I wrote it on the back of here, and I took these notes and I didn't read any of them, but but the main thing I wrote there was, you know, when we talk about like that love factor, and you gave me a great opportunity to go back and do something I really need to do. The thing that I wrote on here was, and we talked about family and love, and it was Mark 12:28 through 31, and I was going to paraphrase it, but I'm going to read it. When Jesus was talking, and then he was asked, he says, of all the commandments, which one is the most important? He said, the most important one, answered Jesus, is, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. And I think that one is extremely significant there, because when we talk about one, you know, that's all inclusive. He is one. And it says, get in the right place. It says, love your God with all your heart. And I think the key word is all. And he says, with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. In each one of those, he said all. And we talked about we talked about God being one. And so the biggest thing that we want to do is when we come in here, we're talking about family, and I'm talking about these guys falling in love with one another, we want to be one. And we want to be one in Christ, and we want to be one football team. And I think if we will become that one, then we will be number one in the South Atlantic Conference, and we'll be number one in the nation, and we'll be number one in God's heart. And I think that's our overall goals.